fundamentals anta helidre, under nonlinear optics, if you say the fundamentals, actually many people for an independent course, they start from some fundamentals of linear optics, then they go on to equations of Maxwell's equations ಹೋಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸ್ಟ್ರೈಟ್ ಅವೇ ಇವರು ಇಂಟ್ರಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೈಟ್ ವಿತ್ ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್ ಅಂತ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ linear susceptibility, non-linear susceptibility ಅಂತ ಶುರುವಾಗುತ್ತೆ. Once you know about susceptibilities, then we'll go on to the tensorial nature of the electric field and the interaction of matter with the electric field. So then we will be simply looking at what happens if the response of the material to light that is input becomes non-linear. When we say non-linear, the property of the material that we discuss is actually called as susceptibility. ಅದೇನು ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಮುಂದೆ ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸಸೆಪ್ಟಿಬಿಲಿಟಿ ನಾನ್ ಲೀನಿಯರ್ ಆಯಿತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಕ್ವಾಡ್ರಾಟಿಕ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಕ್ಯೂಬಿಕ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಹೈಯರ್ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ವೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ಸ್ ಕ್ವಾಡ್ರಾಟಿಕ್ ಟರ್ಮ್, actually then you will have what are known as second order chi effects. If it becomes cubic in nature, then we'll have what are known as third order effects. Essentially, in this syllabus, we are going to restrict ourselves to second order and third order effects. So essentially, hangirutte. So to start with, we can actually look at some fundamental things which we already know about. Now, what are the things that we know? Among the things that we know is idu syllabus copy, just for the sake of completeness and ಹೇಳೋದಷ್ಟೇ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ. These are some of the things that we are going to discuss. Interaction of radiation with a dielectric medium, dielectric susceptibility, that is a property which is going to decide on everything that we are going to do for the next 13 hours. Harmonic generation, which means here you will be using laser to modify the properties of the interaction that we have. ಅವಾಗೇನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇಫ್ ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸಿ ಆಫ್ ದ ಲೇಸರ್ ಏನೋ ಒಂದಷ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ ಅದರ ಡಬಲ್ ಟ್ರಿಬಲ್ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸಿಗಳು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು, ಜನರೇಟ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಸಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸೀಸ್ ಜನರೇಟ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಅಸ್ ಪ್ಯಾರಾಮೆಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಜನರೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೈಟ್. ಈ ತರದ ಕೆಲವು ಫಿನಾಮಿನಾ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಫಾರ್ ಆಲ್ ದೋಸ್ ಫಿನಾಮಿನಾ ವಿ ನೀಡ್ ಫೇಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾಚಿಂಗ್ between the various beams of light that we use. So then some details about the second harmonic generation. Then there is something called as optical mixing. When you mix two waves or three waves for that matter, you will get as the output a combination of those waves. That is called as wave mixing. Then there is something called as third harmonic generation. Under third harmonic generation, there are certain phenomena that we can study. Raman effect ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಿಮ್ಯುಲೇಟೆಡ್ ರಾಮನ್, ಬ್ರಿಲಿಯನ್ ಝೋನ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮಾಡ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ದೆನ್ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಎಸ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಫೋಕಸಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೈಟ್. ದೆನ್ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಪ್ಯಾರಾಮೆಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಜನರೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೈಟ್. ಸಮ್ 8 to 9 ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಹಾರ್ಮೋನಿಕ್ ಜನರೇಷನ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಫೋಕಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಸೇರಿದ್ರೆ ರಫ್ಲಿ ಅಬೌಟ್ 13 hours ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. This is going to be the syllabus. Now, as far as making a beginning is concerned, we know that light is an electromagnetic wave. And for all optical phenomena, the E vector is responsible. So whenever you use a source of light, make it fall on a material, what happens is you are applying an electric field. Even the best of sources that we can use, something like a sodium light, conventional sources I mean, the electric field that we will be applying can vary from 10 volts to 1000 volts per centimeter. Volts per centimeter ಅಂತ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ವೋಲ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವೋಲ್ಟೇಜ್, ಪರ್ ಸೆಂಟಿಮೀಟರ್ ಅಂದಾಗ ಡಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ gradient of potential ಆಯ್ತು. Gradient of potential is nothing but the field. So field is measured in volt per centimeter. So this electric field that we are applying of the order of 10 to 1000 volts per centimeter is a small electric field, because the electric fields inside atoms, they are much stronger and they are of the order of 10 to the 9 volts per centimeter. Because of this, what happens whenever light falls on a material, we know various phenomena do take place, but the internal structure of matter is not disturbed. The internal structure of matter is not disturbed. The microscopic properties of matter are not changed. The macroscopic properties of matter are also not changed. As a result, what happens? The phenomena which are not going to affect the microscopic and macroscopic properties of the material can now be observed. Now, what are those properties? All the commonly observed properties of light, they are due to the electric field vector being small in magnitude. The phenomena are reflection, refraction, scattering, all the common sense phenomena that we easily observe. Ido light in ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಆಯಿತು. Now we should discuss something about matter also. As far as the dielectric material is concerned, we know that a dielectric material is basically an insulator, but all insulators are not dielectric materials. Why? Because basically we classify a material as a dielectric because we can store charges in it. All dielectrics are insulators, but all insulators are not dielectrics because of the use to which the material is put. If you use the bad conducting material or insulator or dielectric to control the current in a circuit and use it as a resistor, it becomes a bad conductor or resistor, insulator. If on the other hand, across the material, you apply an electric field, store electrostatic energy, you then call it as a dielectric material. So, now what about the structure of these dielectric materials? Basically, what happens in these dielectric materials, all the shells are filled. So, free electrons are not available. But what happens is, each material or each atom of the material, you can assume to be made up of an inner core of positive charges and the valence electrons. Electrons that are relatively free to move. Now what happens? You can treat the entire positive charge to be concentrated at one point or acting from one point, and all the electrons to be acting from another point. Therefore, each atom can be treated as an electrical dipole. You know that whenever there is an electric dipole, it is associated with a dipole moment. What is an electric dipole? A pair of opposite charges, plus and minus, of the same magnitude separated by a distance constitutes an electric dipole. Here, what are we doing? We are treating all the positive charges to be acting from one point, all the negative charges to be acting from another point. Therefore, we are treating each atom as an electric dipole. And such a dipole will have a dipole moment given by mu is equal to Q into D, where Q is one of the charges and D the distance of separation between the two charges. We are often used to writing it as 2QR, where R is the half distance of separation. ಅದು ನಾವು ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಬರೀತಕ್ಕಂಥ ವಿಧಾನ. ಈ ಡೈಪೋಲ್ ಮೊಮೆಂಟ್ ಏನಿದೆ, this is a vector and it is taken to act from the negative pole to the positive, the negative charge to the positive, and it is expressed in dBi. dE dBi is also a scientist. If you recall, you would have studied the dBi's theory of specific heats. So when a dipole is, there is a dipole and therefore dipole moment. In most materials, what happens, or in a good number of materials, what happens, the centers of action or the points of action of the positive and negative charges, they coincide. So there is no distance of separation. Therefore, the material, when no external field is applied, does not show any dipole moment. On the other hand, what you do, you apply a magnetic, such a material is called a, or such a molecule is called a non-polar atom or molecule, non-polar. Now, and in some cases, what may happen? The centers of action of these two charges, they may be separated in the material itself, in the molecule itself, in the atom itself. Then what happens? Even without you applying an electric field, it has a net dipole moment. It is called a polar molecule. So whether the molecule is polar or non-polar, what happens is, if you apply an electric field, the positive and negative charges, the centers of action of the positive and negative charges, they will shift slightly. If they shift, what happens? Particularly in a non-polar molecule, ಎಷ್ಟು shift ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ 10 to the minus 17 meter ಅಷ್ಟು ಶಿಫ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಂತೆ. ನೀವು ಒಂದು ಆರ್ಡಿನರಿ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ 10 to the minus 17 meter. ನೋಡಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಶಿಫ್ಟ್. ಬಟ್ even such a shift makes the two centers of charge separated, therefore brings in an induced dipole, which should therefore have a dipole moment. So again, each atom or molecule making up the dielectric will therefore behave like a dipole, having a certain dipole moment mu. ಕೆಲವು ಸಲ ಆ ಡೈಪೋಲ್ ಮೊಮೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಪಿ ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ಬರೆದಿಟ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. ನಾನು ಹಾಗೆ ಎರಡನೇ ಲೈನಲ್ಲಿ ಹಂಗೆ ಬಳಸ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಆ ತರದ ಒಂದು ಎಂಟಿಟಿ ಡೈಪೋಲಾರ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್ಗೆ, ಸೊ ಈ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ದಿಸ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಪರೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಸೆಂಟರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಅಂಡ್ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಚಾರ್ಜಸ್, ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ನೋನ್ ಎಸ್ ಡೈಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಪೋಲರೈಸೇಷನ್ ಆರ್ ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿ polarization. This polarization is generally written as P. Because P is a vector, I have tried to all through represent it by a capital letter, and I have tried not to put the arrow on top. Easy agutte kelsa antashte. So, alige, if you apply an electric field, what happens is the material gets polarized, and polarization is nothing but the separation of the positive and negative charges, or the centers of action of the positive and negative charges. Therefore, what happens? A dipole is induced where there was no dipole. Now a dipole appears, and therefore there is an induced dipole moment. This dipole moment per unit volume is generally referred to as polarization P. If each unit of the material has a polarization small p, there are n such atoms in unit volume, then the dipole moment per unit volume becomes capital P is equal to n times small p. ಇದು ಗೊತ್ತಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ವಿಷಯ. BSc ಓದಿದ್ವಿ, ಬಹುಶಃ ಆಮೇಲೂ ಓದಿದ್ವಿ ಅಂತ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. Now, this polarization of the material depends upon the applied field and also the nature of the applied field. Natural. What happens in ordinary molecules, even if dipoles exist or induced dipoles are appearing, they have an inertia. When you apply an electric field, they turn and they tend to align themselves along the direction of the field. They have an inertia for this. Therefore, when you apply a small field, not all molecules of the material would have properly aligned themselves along the field. As you increase the field, you will find that more and more dipoles align themselves along the field, and the polarization increases. When a very strong field has been applied, then what happens? If all the molecules are aligned in the same direction, their dipole moments, then the saturation reaches a maximum value. Other than that, if you increase the field, saturation will increase. And some materials are there with small fields, they become polarized to a great extent. Or with large fields, they get polarized to a small extent. Therefore, we can say the polarization depends both on the material of the dielectric as well as on the applied field. The ease with which the material gets polarized ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಇದೆ, ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಲಾರ್ಜ್ ಪೋಲರೈಸೇಷನ್ ಅನ್ನು ತೋರಿಸುತ್ತೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಕೆಲವು ಲಾರ್ಜ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಪೋಲರೈಸೇಷನ್ ಅನ್ನು ತೋರಿಸ್ತದೆ. ಇದು ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟಿ ಆಫ್ ದ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಆಯ್ತು. ದ ಈಸ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ದ ಕಂಫರ್ಟ್, ದ ಈಸಿನೆಸ್ with which a material can be polarized. So the ease with which a material gets polarized is the property of the material, and that property of the material is measured by what is known as its polarizability. Polarizability represented as alpha. ನಾವೀಗ ಸದ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ polarizability ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತಲೆ ಕೆಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವ ಅಗತ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. Therefore, what we are doing, we are going towards the dependence of polarizability, or rather polarization, on the applied electric field. The dependence of polarizability on the applied electric field is measured by a quantity known as susceptibility chi. Susceptibility chi, and that chi is given by the relation polarization P is equal to epsilon naught chi E. ಅರ್ಥ ಏನು? The polarization P is proportional to epsilon naught E, property of vacuum. Actually ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಪ್ಸಿಲಾನ್ ಇರಬಹುದಾಗಿತ್ತು, ಇರಬೇಕಿತ್ತು, ಅಥವಾ ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ it is polarization of the material, so epsilon ಇರಬೇಕಿತ್ತು. I made a mistake, I think here. I should have written it as epsilon. Therefore, at a later stage we can bring in epsilon naught, epsilon r. ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡಿದೀನಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ epsilon ಇರಬೇಕು. So polarization is proportional to epsilon E, which is the applied field. Epsilon is the constant of the material. Essentially, P is proportional to E. Therefore, P is equal to some chi times epsilon naught E, where chi is known as the susceptibility of the material. So now, P is equal to epsilon naught chi E andaga, you are finding a linear relationship. E is small, therefore P has a linear dependence on both E and chi. If E is of the order of 10 to the 7 volts per centimeter or so, which is comparable to the internal field of the atoms, then what happens is this linear relationship between the applied field and polarization breaks. Not only the linear relation between polarization and electric field breaks, the susceptibility chi itself starts varying. In that case, what happens? The light waves which are falling on a material and causing the various properties that we observe, usually what happens, they don't interact with themselves, but they interact with the material. Now they start interacting with themselves as the material. If the electric field is large, then you know that the displacements produced in the electrons are also very large. Usually, when the field is small, these charged entities are subject to a harmonic potential. Now, they will be subjected to an unharmonic potential because of large amplitude oscillations. When they perform large amplitude oscillations, they are not only perturbed by the applied field, they are also influenced by the electric field exerted by the neighboring atoms. Therefore, what happens? A linear function P, which is linearly dependent on chi, now becomes dependent in a way in which even if you apply an electric field along the x direction, let us say, the disturbances or the polarization effects are also seen in the y and z directions. In other words, what happens? The polarization P now becomes a tensor quantity. You apply the disturbance in one direction, it's also felt in the other directions. Usually x and y and z directions if you are applying the electric field along x. Therefore, now the relationship between the electric field, the susceptibility chi, and the polarization P should be written as a tensor relation. ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ scalar notation for the sensor use ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ for simplicity sake. Mostly all through the discussion we can use the same thing. So then P therefore becomes an equation of the type epsilon naught into chi 1 E plus chi 2 E square plus chi 3 E cube and so on. Many higher order terms we can take. But since the chi is that this is a tensor, here E square does not mean E dot E. It means E square only. ಅಂತ ತಿಳ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. So ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, if we are applying fields which are very small, then the material and the susceptibility of the material is linked to polarization and electric field in a linear way. All the commonly observed optical phenomena will result from it. If the applied field is very large, comparable to the internal field of the atom or the field existing between the atomic entities, then what happens is the material gives a nonlinear response to the applied electric field. Now, therefore, nonlinear effects can come into picture. Now, this is theory. These nonlinear effects can actually be seen because of two factors. That is, one is availability of the crystals which can highlight these properties, nonlinear effects. Secondly, lasers that are capable of producing this power. Ordinary light suffers from two difficulties. One is it is not monochromatic. But sodium light, which has only two wavelengths, will be sodium light, which doesn't have many wavelengths, at least has two in the same wavelength region. And the conventional light also has the property of diffusing away from the point where it exists. So light, as it goes away from us, decreases in size. On the other hand, if you take a pulse laser, you can have large power as well as you can pinpoint it at over a very small region. Therefore, what happens? Enormous power can be transferred to the material. So, because of the availability of such high power lasers and crystals that accentuate, highlight the nonlinear property, you can have actually these effects being realized. These are not just theoretical. Now, these can be put to practical use. Because to practical use, if you see a situation where the dependence of the polarization P on chi is quadratic, it leads to certain sets of phenomena such as second harmonic generation, sum and difference frequency generation, optical parametric amplification, etc. If we have a cubic dependence of the polarization on chi and E, then you will have what are known as third order effects, wherein you will find third harmonic generation. Third harmonic generation ಅಂದ್ರೇನು? ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮೂಲ ಲೇಸರ್ ಇದೆ, ಆ ಮೂಲ ಲೇಸರ್ಗೆ 106 ನ್ಯಾನೋಮೀಟರ್ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸಿ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. 106.4 ಬಹುಶಃ ND ಆಗ್ ಲೇಸರ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ನೀವು ಒಂದು ನಾನ್ ಲೀನಿಯರ್ ಕ್ರಿಸ್ಟಲ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಇದನ್ನ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಲೈಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೀವು ಆಂಪ್ಲಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಿ ಕ್ಯಾಚ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಫೈಂಡ್ ದಟ್ ಅಮಾಂಗ್ the original light that you had, you will also have light that is having 3 times the frequency of the incident laser. This is what I mean by a third harmonic generation. If I say second harmonic means, if F is the frequency, 2F, 3F, etc., they are known as harmonics. You can also have a situation where if F is the frequency, half F, 1/3 F, etc., can also be produced. ಅದನ್ನು ಮುಂದೆ ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ, wave mixing ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So some of these phenomena are now we are able to bring into practice. Now, what are the materials that can give you these effects ಅಂತ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಒಂದು ಪಟ್ಟಿ ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಬರೀ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟೀಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ವೈ ಆರ್ ಹೌ second harmonics can be there ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಮಾತ್ರ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. So essentially what is required for looking at second order effect? Second order nonlinear effects are produced by two waves interact to produce a third wave. The third wave may have double the frequency of the incident waves if the two are equal. If the two are omega 1, omega 2, then the third wave can be omega 1 plus omega 2, which is some frequency generation. If omega 1 is a large frequency and omega 2 is a smaller frequency, then you can have omega 1 being equal to omega 2 minus omega 3. That is difference frequency generation. If the two frequencies are equal, you will find that if you put omega, you will get back 2 omega. That is called as second harmonic generation. These are the things that we are going to see. Agatya enappa antandre, momentum has always got to be conserved, and photon energy also has to be always conserved in all these processes. In these processes, the optical fields of the waves are coupled to each other through second order susceptibility. Coupling provides a mechanism for the exchange of energy among the interacting fields. The Kai Mukantra link up the fields and energy exchange agodrinda, the various phenomena that we see will arise. Now, in centrosymmetric crystals with a central symmetry, chi square, the second order susceptibility is 0. Therefore, second order nonlinear processes are possible only in materials that lack an inversion symmetry. Because of this, you cannot have nonlinear second order effects in cubic crystals and water and also glasses. Idu sadhya illa. These are some of the conditions for second order nonlinearity. Now, what is the material or what are some of the materials that can give us this behavior? What actually happens is you use a particular type of laser, along with it you use a particular type of material, particular crystal. ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಲೇಸರ್ಗೂ ಒಂದು ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ಆಧಾರವಾಗಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ರೆಸ್ಪಾಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ನಾನ್ ಲೀನಿಯರ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಅನ್ನು ಬಳಸ್ತೀವಿ. Together they are used to produce the second order effects. But here, if I include both, it becomes too complicated ಪಟ್ಟಿ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಒಂದು ಸೆಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೀನಿ. As and when we go on the phenomena in detail, we can combine the two. ಒಂದು ಪಟ್ಟಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು ಅವಾಗ. So, bismuth, barium oxide, BiBO, BBO ಅಂತಾರೆ ಕೆಲವು ಸಲ. Lithium iodate, LiO3, potassium niobate, KNBO3, BBO, that is what I said, beta barium borate, BaB2O4, beta barium borate, KTP, potassium, titanium, phosphorus oxide, KTA, monopotassium phosphate, KDP, potassium dihydrogen phosphate, lithium triborate, various materials are there. In addition, some biological proteins with cylindrical symmetry, such as collagen, which helps blood to clot, tubulin or myosin, etc. Certain carbohydrates, such as starch and cellulose, are also good converters for second harmonic generation. This is simply a patti. Materials introduce ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ತಂದಿದ್ದು ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಪಟ್ಟಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ತುಂಬಾ ತಲೆ ಕೆಡಿಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. When we discuss each phenomena in detail, we can, if necessary, make a small list of materials. Now, we can look at the various phenomena that we will come across. Now, what is this sum and difference frequency generation? There are two frequencies of light laser that we input on a nonlinear crystal. These two have comparable intensity, and when we pass it through a crystal, what happens is the mixing and sharing of energy through the second order nonlinear susceptibility property leads to a polarization that we can write as P omega 3, that is the third frequency. Omega 1 in the ಹುಟ್ಟತಕ್ಕಂಥ third frequency, omega 1 plus omega 2. That can be written as epsilon naught chi 2 E omega 1 E omega 2. This is mathematics. ಈ ಇ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಸೈನುಸಾಯ್ಡಲ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ ತಗೋಬಹುದು. ಇ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ಸ್ ಇ ನಾಟ್ ಸೈನ್ ಒಮೆಗಾ ಟಿ. Therefore, E naught sin omega 1 t, E naught sin omega 2 t can be the two fields. And when you pass them to a nonlinear crystal, what happens is you will get a sum frequency which is omega 3. Omega 1 and omega 2 being the incident frequencies. It is also possible that by a suitable combination of the laser and the nonlinear crystal to produce omega 1 minus omega 2. That is the difference frequency. That is also possible. That depends on the detail ಆಗಿ ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಮುಂದೆ ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಇವತ್ತಿಗೆ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಫೆನಾಮಿನಾಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೆಸರುಗಳನ್ನ ಹೇಳೋ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ, ಅದು ಏನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. Now I just drew a figure from somewhere, sorry, to illustrate the phenomenon of sum and difference frequency generation. So, omega 1, omega 2 ಅನ್ನೋದು ಇನ್ಪುಟ್ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸಿಗಳು. ನನ್ನ ಚಿತ್ರ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹಲೋ ಹಲೋ ಹಲೋ
ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್.
Frequency omega 1 and omega 2 are input to a crystal. Then the sum omega 3 will be produced. The conservation of photon energy ಕನ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಆಗಬೇಕಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೀನಿ. omega 1 ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ವರ್ಚುವಲ್ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಲೆವೆಲ್, omega 2 ಅನ್ನೋದು ಮತ್ತೊಂದು ವರ್ಚುವಲ್ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅವೆರಡು ಕೂಡಿ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಿಷನ್ ಸೀದಾ omega 3 ಈಗ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು ಆ ವೇವ್ ವೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ k1 k2 k3 ಗಳ ಸಂಬಂಧ ಏನಪ್ಪಾ ಅಂತ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಮೊಮೆಂಟಮ್ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಎರಡು ಕನ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಆಗಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಆ ವೇವ್ ವೆಕ್ಟರ್ k ಅನ್ನೋದು 2π/λ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ in this phenomena you will see that wave vector of k1, the first wave, k vector of second wave, that is k2, together will produce k3. ವೆಕ್ಟರ್ ಆಲ್ಜಿಬ್ರಾ ನೀವು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಹಾಕಿರೋ ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ k1 plus k2 is equal to k3. On the other hand, if there is an incident frequency omega 1 which is very large, then it is also possible to produce two transitions, omega 2 and omega 3, that are smaller. Omega 1 being equal to omega 2 minus, omega 3 being equal to omega 1 minus omega 2. So again, k2, the wave vector of 1, k3, the wave vector of the output wave, ಎರಡು output waves. So that's equal to wave vector k1 in terms of direction and magnitude. ಈ ರೀತಿ ವೇವ್ ವೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಆಡ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಈ ಚಿತ್ರ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಮುಂದಿನ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ. Then there is something called as second harmonic generation. This is important. ಇದನ್ನು ಇದೇ ರೀತಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು. 2 minutes ಇದೆ, ಕ್ವಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೋಗೋಣ. This is a special property when the initial waves are of the same frequency. So therefore 2 omega 1 is equal to omega 3, the output. Omega 1 equals omega 2. Induced polarization of equation ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ, ಅದನ್ನು ಹಾಕಿದಾಗ P is equal to epsilon naught into chi1 E sin omega t plus chi2 E squared omega t ಅಂತ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆ E squared ಅನ್ನೋದು ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾನು E square sin square omega t ಆಗುತ್ತದು. ಆ E square sin square omega E naught square sin square omega t ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆ E naught square sin square omega t ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ 1 minus cos 2 omega t ತರ ಬರ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಇದು P is equal to epsilon naught into chi1 E sin omega t, E naught ಅಂತ ಬರೆದ್ರೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತು, ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಹಾಫ್ chi square E square E naught square ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಿತ್ತದು, ಇಂಟು 1 minus omega cos 2 omega t ಅಂತ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಔಟ್ಪುಟ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಸ್ 2 omega t ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಿಮಗೆ it is clear that the output consists of a frequency that is twice the initial frequency. So a second harmonic has been generated ಅಂತ ಆಯ್ತು. ಇದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ನೋಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ this is it. These are the two virtual energy levels, omega 1 and omega 1. Transition happens to omega 1 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ಲೇಸರ್ ಲೈಟ್ ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ಎಸೆನ್ಷಿಯಲಿ ನಾ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಫೆನಾಮಿನಾ ಹಿಂಗಿದೆ. ಒಂದು ನಾನ್ ಲೀನಿಯರ್ ಆಪ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಮೀಡಿಯಂ ಇದೆ ವೇರ್ chi ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಟು 0 ಗ್ರೇಟರ್ ದ್ಯಾನ್ 0. ಒಂದು ಇನಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸಿ ಒಮೆಗಾನ ಇನ್ಪುಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಔಟ್ಪುಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಲಾರ್ಜ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಪುಟ್ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸಿ ವಾಪಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಅಮೌಂಟಿಗೆ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ waves that are of double the frequency. ಮೇಲೆ ಸ್ಕಿಮ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ ತೋರಿಸಿದೀನಿ. ಲೇಸರ್ ಲೈಟ್ ಸೋರ್ಸ್ falls on a, it produces the original wave omega 1. It is also called as the pump wave, passes through a non-linear crystal and a prism. The initial wave comes as well as the second harmonic also comes. ಇದು ಸ್ಕಿಮ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್. ಸೊ ನನಗೆ ಟೈಮ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ನಿಲ್ಸ್ಕೋತೀನಿ. ನಾಳೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗೋಣ. ಸದ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್.